Greetings again everyone, and it's about time I put together a final review of the Sigma BF. It's a full-frame L-mount 24-megapixel mirrorless camera machined out of a single block of aluminium with an exceptional aesthetic design. It costs $2,000 or a little under £2,000 here in the UK, so it's expensive, but then again, you're potentially getting something quite unique here. Sigma's cameras are usually a little unusual and polarizing, and this one is no exception. As you might have heard by now, the BF stands for Beautiful Foolishness, which I think is an awesome moniker and captures the camera's kind of dual nature as being something beautiful, of course, but also a little strange. In my videos from Japan, pandemonium seemed to break out in the comment sections from people who either loved or hated this thing, so it's safe to say that, statistically, this is probably not a camera that the majority of my viewers will need or even want to buy. But there are going to be a good number who will fall in love with this thing, despite, or perhaps because of, its limitations. It's certainly Sigma's best camera yet, in my own opinion, and I personally did indeed fall in love with this thing. Some people have suggested it would have been better with a built-in lens design. I disagree. I love that L-mount flexibility, although I do wish there was an I-series pancake lens available for it. My wife is a graphic designer, and I got her to do this mock-up. Doesn't that look sweet? I'd like to thank Sigma UK for loaning me this for testing, and also for flying me to Japan to give it a bit of testing out there too. But as usual, this is a totally independent review, and they had no input into the video at all. The camera comes in silver or black, but I think most people will obviously be interested in the silver version, and of course Sigma have re-released a bunch of their I-series lenses in silver to go alongside it, with a touch of rainbow reflectivity to them. Hopefully we might see those in Sony E-mounts too one day. As I mentioned, the camera's body itself is a single block of aluminium machined in a process that takes about 7 hours. Rumour has it that the factory can churn out only about 9 of these cameras per day as a result, so this thing could well become a bit of a collector's item. The bottom is rubberized though, so it sits nicely on surfaces without scratching anything. Honestly, I have this thing on my desk and I just keep looking at it. It's such a thing of beauty. Now, if you were to look at its specs alone, it's easy to see why some people are unimpressed. No in-body stabilization, only a 24-megapixel sensor, albeit a nice full-frame one, no EVF or tiltable screen, well, those all make the camera off-limits for quite a few people, and understandably. Its screen is averagely bright, so shooting in bright sunshine can be a little tricky to be honest, although far from impossible. Admittedly, that screen is very high resolution with accurate colours and good touchscreen functionality. It has no mechanical shutter, electronic shutter only, and that means occasional problems with warping when shooting moving subjects or banding when shooting under particularly difficult artificial light. Instead of using memory cards, the camera has 230GB of internal storage. I really like that. It means you never have to worry about, well, memory cards, and you get the file straight out of the camera via very fast transfer through the USB-C port onto your computer, backup hard drive, or phone. I can see this being a problem for sports or wedding photographers though, who might want a double memory card backup, but I don't think they're the target market of this camera. No Wi-Fi here, I'm afraid though, no wireless connection, another mild annoyance. There are no other in-out ports on the camera, that's how simple this thing really is. The camera uses a proprietary battery, which will last about 300 shots for you, a slightly below average performance really, and although the camera charges up quite quickly via that USB-C port, still you might want to keep a spare battery handy. Unlike some people, I personally found the camera comfortable enough to hold, with its little thumb rest and its couple of notched off corners. The side of my middle finger rubbed on the front of it after extended use though. You wouldn't want to use this camera with a big heavy lens or anything. Another reason why I want to see a silver pancake lens for it one day. The camera body's edges are slightly on the sharp side. I tried gently headbutting the thing a few times during my tests just to see if it would hurt, and it did, so don't do that. What's unique about the camera though is its simplified control system. Look at those controls, that's all you get. It takes a little while to figure out how exactly to control the camera, but when you do, it's actually very charming to use. You basically work the camera by pressing left and right on this control wheel, then turning it around. You choose the setting you want to change or have ready to change, and then turn that wheel. There you go. White balance, color tone, shutter speed, ISO. Just press left or right until you reach the option, then turn that wheel. It's dead simple, and it's a slower way to use a camera, but there really is something so charming about it. But let's say you want to adjust some option a bit deeper. For example, here's the color tone setting. Turn the wheel to change your color tone, but if you want to adjust them more finely, just press that center button twice and bingo, a whole load more options for fine-tuning. Neat. I love the camera's optional color tones, by the way. They're really nice and addictive. They look great, particularly the teal and orange option, which I spent a bit too much time shooting in, as you can see from my sample pictures. Actually, when shooting in monotone, there is a bit of an oddity you should know about. If you want to shoot in mono, but use simulated color filters, then you have to move over to the white balance menu and select them from there. That's probably the biggest weird menu quirk though. All the other menus tend to make sense. Here's another example. We're adjusting the shooting mode right now between single shot, continuous shooting, exposure bracketing, and so on. Want to adjust things a bit more deeply? Just press that middle button again a couple of times, and now we have access to a sub-menu to let you change the continuous shooting speed, interval timer settings, and so on. See the little timer button at the top? Press it with your finger to turn on the camera's self-timer. One more example. Say you're changing your shutter speed. Well, as before, you can adjust it with the control wheel, or press that center button twice to take you to the sub menu. There you can set it between automatic and manual shutter speed, and if you touch the button at the top, you can find the automatic shutter speed settings. You can explore all the camera's menus like this if you really want to, while quickly making adjustments just using the control wheel. To stop yourself accidentally adjusting things with the control wheel, well, put it into a setting that's in automatic mode, which will be grayed out and therefore non-adjustable. Controlling a camera with this system makes everything lovely and simple. It's obviously slower to handle than a camera with lots of controls on it, but honestly, using the BF is strangely enjoyable. I wouldn't say that it's beginner friendly though. You do need to know what all those symbols that pop up in a mini display actually mean in order to use the camera effectively. Let's take a quick look at the other buttons on the body. Turn the camera on or off with the bottom button and press it in once just quickly to set the camera into standby mode, where the battery power remaining will be displayed on a mini info screen. The button on the right is a menu button. Touch it gently and it quickly puts battery life information on the top of the screen, as well as the time and number of pictures remaining. Press the button in for a number of extra general settings that you can adjust, and navigate down to the system icon at the bottom to go to the main system menu, but you won't need to do that very often. The play button is, well, the play button. Touch it gently and it quickly shows you the last picture you took. Press it in properly to navigate through your stored pictures and videos. While doing so, if you press up and down, you can pull up or push down further picture information, including an RGB histogram, which is pretty neat. And you can also swipe the touchscreen left or right to change pictures or pinch zoom in and out. One annoyance to me is that I couldn't find a way to zoom into my pictures to check focus, then move on to adjacent pictures while still zoomed in. That's something I like to do often to find which pictures are in focus and delete ones that are not, so I didn't like that. In the play menu, you can also find raw processing settings. You can process your raw images into JPEG in camera and make all kinds of adjustments to them at the same time. Raw images come out as simple DNG files, which can be processed on pretty much any software. Something else I'll mention quickly is that the camera's sensor is protected by optical glass, which is a feature I really like. It means it's protected from dust and can easily be cleaned, and you have no idea how much I wish my Sony a7R III had this feature. And another interesting touch is that the camera's front cap is weather sealed with a rubber gasket. Now, I've never seen that before. An annoyance is that the camera only has a space for a wrist strap on one side, which is a pain for anyone who holds their camera with their left hand or who enjoys having it around their neck. Although in fairness, you can get neck straps that also adjust to the bottom tripod mount for that. Let's talk about autofocus quickly, because this camera has Sigma's best autofocus system yet. When shooting in stills mode, you can choose between single point or wide autofocus, single shot or continuous autofocus with subject tracking, including humans and animals. The camera, for me, focused quickly, accurately, and had no real problems tracking my subject, and using the touchscreen really helped. Here's the continuous autofocus at work in video mode. It's able to track my face easily, even after I disappear behind a tree for a moment, and it's mostly managing to keep up with my movements. It's not tracking quite as smoothly or as quickly as the best systems out there, but it's genuinely doing a pretty good job. I must warn you though, when shooting a relatively still scene in autofocus continuous mode, I did find the camera focus wobbling sometimes, which is always a pain. In those situations, use autofocus single shot mode. So that's something that still needs a little work. Apart from that though, the autofocus experience of the BF is great here. It's very simple to use. Overall, the camera is obviously stunningly beautiful and simple, with lots of unusual and interesting design choices here. Lots of features have been omitted in Sigma's quest for simplification, and those omissions will be too much for many people. But for anyone who's fallen in love with this thing, it's likely those design and feature choices will just be part of its charm. The biggest problem for me is the lack of either a tilting screen or a viewfinder. The other issues I found quite forgivable on the whole, and there's just something weirdly enjoyable about that menu system, slow to use as it is, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, image quality. On the left we see a RAW image, on the right JPEG. The RAW image quality is absolutely phenomenal. The picture is unbelievably sharp and detailed, colours are neutral and natural. This is easily some of the best 24 megapixel detail I've seen out of any camera. The camera's JPEG engine falls behind though. The JPEGs look quite a bit softer there, with blooming around contrasting details, and the colours, in standard colour mode anyway, see the greens having a lot of yellow to them, which will look unattractive in landscape photography. So personally, I highly recommend shooting in RAW. Perhaps Sigma can tweak that JPEG engine one day. Anyway, let's look at high ISO noise levels. It's an average performance here. A little extra noise is starting to emerge at ISO 1600. Increase that ISO further to see a fair bit of noise at 6400 and especially 12800. The noise there seems to make the image actually look more detailed in a way though. Perhaps I'm wrong, perhaps I'm crazy, or a bit of both, but at least the quality of that high ISO noise seems to have a lot of character. There doesn't seem to be much in the way of colour noise within it. So yeah, amazing RAW images here, but the camera's JPEG image needs a bit more work to pull that detail out and get those greens looking right. Let's have a quick look at dynamic range. Pulling shadows up out of your RAW images is fairly effective here, about an average performance for a full frame camera sensor in this class, so no nasty surprises. Next, video quality. Let's start with the 6K video footage. Video footage at 6K is pretty spectacular. Very highly detailed, very clean looking, and any kind of video noise only begins to creep in at about ISO 1600. ISO 3200 and 6400 look noisier, but are still quite usable. ISO 12800 sees a dramatic drop in quality though. How about image quality in 4K? The maximum 4K frame rate is 30 frames per second here, not 60. As you'd expect, the footage isn't as detailed as 6K, but still looks great, and as before, any kind of video noise only starts to creep in at about ISO 1600. We get a little more noise at ISO 3200 and 6400, but they look surprisingly clean on the whole actually. Again, ISO 12800 is looking a bit too rough. Still, fabulous video quality. I mean, let's have another look at just that 4K video footage at ISO 6400. Looks absolutely fine to me. Very nice. Oh, and here's some video at a camera's fastest frame rate, 120 frames per second at 1080p. This looks excellent to me as well, very sharp, perhaps a little over sharpened if you look at the details on my face. Oh, and look at those yellowy coloured greens again. I really hope Sigma can tweak that one day. When it comes to rolling shutter, the camera displays a warping effect whether you're shooting in 6K, 4K or 1080p. I've seen slightly worse than this, but not much worse. Something I'll just remind you of here is that this camera does not have in-body sensor stabilization. Its digital stabilization in video mode did not work well for me at all, unfortunately, even with wider angle lenses, so when shooting video I'd very highly recommend using an image stabilized lens. Okay, phew, I've probably missed out a few features and bits of information here and there, but the video's gotten pretty long already, so I'm going to draw a line here. Ultimately, well, you've seen the video. The Sigma BF is a camera that's difficult for me to review because I just can't generally recommend it or unrecommend it, which is to say, some people will love it, but it's definitely not for everyone. For video work, you will definitely want to use an image stabilized lens with it, and the lack of a viewfinder or tilting screen is probably the biggest inconvenience alongside a few other niggles, but it also has quite a number of very unique qualities and capabilities, not to mention its annoying habit of making you fall in love with it once you've figured out how its simple interface actually works. Its simplicity will slow down your shooting style quite a bit. Many people will see that as an issue, some will see it as a nice bonus, an opportunity even. Its autofocus is a huge improvement on previous Sigma models, and its raw image quality and its video quality are both absolutely phenomenal. It's amazing to see so much detail coming out of a 24 megapixel sensor, but the camera's JPEG engine needs a bit of tweaking in my opinion. But at the end of the day, it's design. Just look at the thing. There's nothing else quite like it in the world. I've never handled such a thing of beauty. The BF is certainly Sigma's best camera yet, and if I had a spare $2,000 lying around, which I definitely don't, well, I think I'd probably get one, while still keeping hold of my Canon EOS R5, of course, especially if we can get a silver pancake lens one day. Let's do it. Thanks for watching everyone, always nice to test something a bit different. Hope you enjoyed the review. A big thanks to all my Patreon supporters and channel members who help keep these tests trucking on while getting all kinds of exclusive bonus content. Ciao for now.